Welcome to the Ford Innovate 191 sales event, driving better SUV value for you. Take the incredible Ford Kuga, featuring Ford Sync with touchscreen, smartphone mirroring, leather trim, and key-free system. And right now, you can order a 191 Ford Kuga with an amazing 7-year warranty, 7-year roadside assistance, and 2 years free servicing. All from just €28,450. Ford Innovate, driving better value for you. See it for yourself at your local participating Ford dealer. Offer ends December 10th. Ford, go further. Price excludes delivery and related charges. Terms and conditions apply. See Ford.ie for details.
Welcome into the Tuesday podcast. We're doing a college basketball betting podcast with our guest, Brent Crow. Brent, welcome into the podcast. How are you?
Hey, Drew. Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good, bud. We got about, 5-6 games going to talk about here. Break them down from a betting perspective on the college basketball betting board here for November 27th. Get both sides and totals opinions from you. And first off, want to throw out a coupon code CROW, CROW 300 for $300 off Brent Crow's rest of season in college basketball. That brings it from $9.95 down to $6.95 for the rest of the college basketball season throughout the Final Four. But Brent, want to start off with 5-15, 5-16. Illinois at Notre Dame, got 149 being the total. Looks like the Irish laying 7.5 at Bookmaker. 7 with some juice at Bet Online. How are you looking to bet Illinois Notre Dame tonight?
It looks like that Notre Dame's obviously taking some money. They opened at 5.5. The over's also taking a little money, 147.5 up to 149. And if I played it, that's the way I'm looking at this game. Illinois so far has just not been able to defend. I mean, they're a group this year that they're playing pretty fast, but they don't have any size whatsoever. They play 3 or 4 guards at all times. And we've seen already their last, they have 2 wins against Evansville and Mississippi Valley State. And obviously that's not stiff competition, but they played 4 games against teams that are in Notre Dame's class. They gave up at least 83 in all of those games, and they were all losses. They were all, for the most part, competitive. They had a 16-point loss to Iowa State, but, only a 6-point loss to Gonzaga the first day in Maui, and a 9-point loss to Xavier. So, you're looking at a team, they're going to score some points. They're not playing very good defensively. Right now, in effective field goal percentage defense, they're 317th in the country. So, they obviously that shows their lack of size. They've been out rebounded as well, and that's one thing Notre Dame does pretty well. Notre Dame's not a fast team. They're not going to just look to break every time, but they will take advantage when they have the opportunity. And when they put up 95 against DePaul in their last game, they're certainly capable of scoring some points. So if I played it, that's the way I'm looking here over the total.
And Brent, this game's in South Bend?
It is.
How does that affect your handicapping early in the season? With a lot of teams playing neutral site tournament games, now getting more into, I guess, what we can expect the rest of the season with teams, having to go true road games, true home games. How does that differentiate your handicapping from before?
I think with the neutral site games, there are a few gyms that probably don't play into it as much, but there are some places that. The backgrounds are not good. The rims are tight, but in general, I'd say you look to play unders in neutral games. And then the other thing, if you've been there for 3 days, by the 3rd day you're getting used to that. So I think it's that first day in tournament situations where you're looking to play unders. But then neutral site games like Madison Square Garden really has no effect. It just depends on the venue more than anything else. The ones that are legit basketball arenas, you're not going to have much of an effect. But when you're playing in a convention center in the Caribbean, then sometimes you don't have the greatest sight lines for shooting basketballs.
Yeah, convention center in the Caribbean, doesn't always make for the most legit of circumstances. And Brent, you've been good in college basketball for quite some time. Last year went 72-48 against the number. Up 25 units for your client base and yourself. Is it in mostly totals, would you say, or is it half sides, half totals?
No, I've gotten to where I concentrate mostly on totals. There'll be a few sides. I think so far this year I've had 3 free play sides. as a matter of fact. And if I'm not mistaken, they've all three been winners. So, it just seems like there's more opportunities with totals. But, I'm certainly not going to pass up an opportunity for a side play. And, the next game we talk about, I really like the side in it. Unfortunately, the line kind of got out of hand.
And that game you're talking about here is the Virginia Tech game?
Yeah, Virginia Tech opened 1.5 against Penn State, and this is a road game. They're playing at Penn State, and these are teams that I have actually I've had some action on both teams total wise, and as a result, I've seen 2 or 3 games apiece, and I was a little shocked that Virginia Tech was minus 1.5. Now it's up to 4, so obviously a lot of other people have seen that as well, and. I like Virginia Tech here to win this game. Penn State's got some talent. Lamar Stevens is having a great year. He's a senior. They've got one other senior that has contributed, but for the most part, they're all freshmen and sophomores, and those guys have been up and down. Miles Dredd has had some good games, and then also some games that were not so good. And then the other, Rasir Bolton, also same deal. I mean, and that's what you get with freshmen. And you're playing a veteran team in Virginia Tech tonight that I mean, look what they showed what they could do with the win over Purdue on a neutral court. They've got a little more size. They play better defense than Penn State, and I know Penn State's going to give an effort, but I think they're just going to come up a little short. They just don't have the firepower, and if a team like Virginia Tech can slow down Lamar Stevens, and then that makes one of those freshmen have to beat you. I don't think that's going to happen. So, I like Virginia Tech. I hate the line got out of whack a little bit at 4. I mean, not that it's out of whack, but it's certainly not as much value as it was earlier when it was Virginia Tech minus 1.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. 3-point move is something you definitely got to pay attention to. And when Brent brings up the free plays that he's been giving out, that will be on his homepage at sportsmemo.com. We got a couple free plays up. Actually, Robbie Vino has a free play up on his homepage in college basketball as well, so check that out. It's also $2 Tuesday. You can get Rob Vino's top play right now on the homepage for just $2. Normally, $25. So it's a huge discount, something we're trying to bring in new eyeballs to the site. It's worked. A lot of people are liking it, so we enjoy the feedback as well. Anything you want to throw out towards us on Twitter is more than welcome. At Sportsmemo is the follow for the company Twitter handle, and it's $2 Tuesday, so check it out, sportsmemo.com. Brent, we got another one here, 7:30 Eastern tip, 5:19, 5:20, Michigan State at Louisville. Looks like Sparty laying 5.5 or 5, depending where you're shopping, and it looks like 154 being the total. How do you look to bet this one?
Yeah, Louisville basically started over. They hired Chris Mack, and you look at the players that they have returning, they're basically a brand new team. I mean, Ryan McMahon played a little last year, but the starting center is a transfer. Kristen Cunningham, one of the guards that plays a lot, is a transfer. I mean, B.J. King did play some last year, but this is not the Louisville team that you're used to seeing. And I think they're, in the past you've had some NBA talent with Louisville. I mean, Pitino was always a great recruiter, always had some NBA guys. I don't think there are any on this team. But under Chris Mack, they're going to play hard. I think they're just going to come up short when they face top talented teams, and they did that in their last 2 games against Tennessee. They fell by 11 and then lose to Marquette in overtime in their last game. Now they've got a Michigan State team that has shown what they can do. I mean, this Michigan State team had a remarkable game against Texas last time out. They got off to a terrible start. I think it was like 25-6 Texas, and then Michigan State turned it around and outscored Texas 72-43. Over the last 30 minutes of that game. And prior to that, they had beaten UCLA. Of course, they opened the season with a tough loss to Kansas. But Michigan State, one of those teams that they're going to be in the top 5 when the season ends. They've got a tremendous coach, tremendous talent, and I think they'll be able to go on the road here against a Louisville team and get a win. That's the one thing that concerns me a little bit. This is the first true road game for Michigan State. They've had 3 neutral court games, but this is their first road game. 22,000 fans in the KFC Yum Center for Louisville. And, that's going to help them, no doubt about that. But I think eventually Michigan State just has too much talent, pulls away, gets the win here, laying 5.
And Brent, in your handicapping, does conference affiliation, do you bring that into account? We got a Big Ten versus an ACC team, or is it just straight, you're handicapping the individual teams?
Yeah, not really. As far as the major conferences, I mean, Power Fives are all basically the same. I mean, you're going to have. It doesn't matter what conference you come from. If you're a top 5 team, you're a top 5 team. The difference would be if you're a really good team from one of the, the bottom conferences. If you're in the MEAC or something like that, there's a ceiling for those teams. So even though a team has a good record and whatever, I try not to. I don't want to group them all together, but just usually I look back at historical stuff and see, has this conference ever been able to do anything? And mostly that's tournament time too.
Okay, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Well, we got a top 5 team, at least according to the rankings, 5-2-3, 5-2-4, Nevada at Loyola. Looks like 4.5 or 5 is what Nevada's laying on the road, I believe, 150 the total.
Yeah, this is an interesting game. Nevada, to be ranked, I mean, it's a consensus. They're ranked 5th, 6th. It's Ken Palm, AP, whatever. I mean, they have got a ton of credit to be from the Mountain West Conference. But, I mean, if you look at their roster, I mean, you've got the 2 Martin brothers. They got to transfer Jazz Johnson in this year that's been phenomenal. Jordan Carolyn had a great year last year. I mean, this team has just got so much talent. And, Eric Musselman is a guy that has – he's been basically a basketball lifer. He's been a coach in the NBA. He knows what he's doing, and I mean, this is not a fluke. I mean, this Nevada team is the real deal. They're not, Loyola made the Final Four last year, and they kind of did it. They had some talent, but not a whole lot of size. Not a lot of depth. I mean, there weren't any guys that are going to play in the NBA. They just had that magical run through the tournament. And I'm not saying it's a fluke. I mean, obviously they were a good team, but you look at they don't even match up with Nevada here. I mean, Nevada, talent-wise and athletic ability-wise, has way more than Loyola does. It just depends on what happens in the tournament. I mean, are they going to fulfill their expectations or not? But they certainly have the talent, and this team so far this year has been phenomenal. They're actually number 1 in the country in offensive efficiency in the Ken Palm standings. Now, they hadn't played anybody. I mean, BYU and UMass are the best 2 teams they face, but I mean they've been lighting up the scoreboard. They've been playing solid defense. I mean, they do everything well. And again, played 4 home games, a couple of neutral site games, no competition. This is by far and away their toughest test of the year. But this is not the same Loyola team that played in the Final Four last year. They lost a couple of guys off of that team. They've already lost 2 games this year. They lose at home to Furman, and then in their last one they lose to Boston College. So it's not, like I said, they've taken a couple of hits from what they had last year. But I think they'll be fired up for this one. I mean, Nevada's not going to sneak up on them or anything. They'll be sky high to play, and it should be a good game to watch. It's really kind of contrasting styles. Nevada likes to press, play full court. Loyola Chicago is more of a half court team. The total at 150. I mean, it's one of those games where if you like Loyola Chicago, you probably can bet the under here. If you like Nevada, you can bet Nevada and the over. And right now I kind of lean Nevada. I just think they have too much talent. They're laying 4.5 on the road, but I think that that they've proven. Last year they had basically everybody back, and they've just added to what they had last year. So, yeah, it's not this is not a team that's going to be scared playing on the road, and I think they just have a little too much for Loyola.
And Brent, I mean, I thought you brought out some really good points as far as the correlation between which side you like and which total you would look to bet. As far as like philosophy, are you in the camp of the stronger, the more talented team kind of dictates the pace in college basketball?
That's generally the case. I think sometimes the home team does, and also the more talented team. But because there are a lot of teams that like to play fast. I mean, but if you can't get defensive stops and can't get the rebounds, you can't play fast. I mean, it's not like you can. you can impose your will on somebody that's better athletically and better than you. So, that's the case. It's sort of here with Nevada. I mean, Loyola may want to slow them down, but they may not be able to.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. And guys, actually, we got one game left here, and Brent Crow, actually, you know your stuff as far as being able to talk about it, and you've been good this year, Brent. 11-8 on the year, 60% last year. You got a 4% top college basketball total of the day up at sportsmemo.com. Make sure to check that out, guys, as you're listening to the podcast here at sportsmemo.com. Last game up, 5-3-7, 5-3-8. Brent, Indiana at Duke. Looks like 160 the total. The Dukies laying 15.5 at home.
Yeah, the Duke, it's amazing how much talent this team has. They kind of showed their youth in their last one against Gonzaga, however, and that was a game that I looked at it and I knew that Gonzaga was the play. I think we were getting 8.5, and it was one of those that just took me a long time to realize it. It was almost game time before I got to bet Gonzaga here, and it turned out that was the right way to go. And when you really just the hype for the freshmen at Duke. I mean, right before the Gonzaga game, it was like, I saw articles compared, could they beat the Cavaliers? And I mean, people seriously talking stuff like that. And it just got so out of whack that, you wound up with a tremendous amount of value on Gonzaga. And then, of course, Gonzaga was a better team in the game. And then now you look at this one and you see an Indiana team that is, they're mediocre to good. I mean, they're not a great team, but, so far they've done what they have needed to do on the season. I really like Archie Miller. I thought they had or made a great hire when they got him. Their only road game, they lose by a point against Arkansas, but they handled Marquette easily at home by 23. Now they're on the road against Duke, and if you look at this one, all of a sudden you got a total at 160 here. And I think, again, it's the hype. I mean, Duke scored so many points in the first game against Kentucky. They scored 118. I think everybody expects them to score over 100 for like the rest of the year. But if you look at the games in Maui, the Gonzaga game goes I think it winds up and goes over, but the Auburn game goes under, San Diego State game goes under, Army went under, Eastern Michigan went under. So basically, they've had since the Kentucky game, it's 1 over and 4 unders, and now you've got a total that based on Ken Palm, it's about 7 or 8 points higher than what he projects, and it seems like it just continues to go higher. I see a 161.5 out there, and then plenty of 161. So, the more this one goes up, the more likely I am to bet it under. And I know it's going to be high scoring, but, both teams are going to have to score a lot of points in this one. And as you saw against Auburn, I mean, Auburn loves to run up and down the court. They're better than Indiana, and that game wound up 78-72. So, you've got to have – for a game to get over 160, you got to have two really good teams that don't play much defense. And Indiana and Duke have shown that they can play some defense.
Brent, I'm just checking this game out from last year's results. Duke 91, Indiana 81. So what's that? 172 total. How much do you bring over last year's results into this year's matchup?
Not at all, unless especially personnel wise. I mean, there's nobody on this Duke team that played in last year's game. I mean, coaching stuff I look at historical, but only just what coaches like to do and whatever. But as far as matchup last year versus this year, I never look at it. And in college basketball, just about you very rarely have any teams that return all 5 starters. A few return 4, a handful 3, but I mean most of them are like Duke. You've got 5 new starters, and Indiana the same way. So what these two teams, what the jerseys did last year's game is not the same as what these players in this year's game are going to do, because all these guys were in different uniforms last year.
Yeah, no, well said, man. And anything else you want to throw out, Brent, before we start shutting this one down?
No, just looking forward to another one tonight. I think we've got a solid play lined up for tonight, and I had an easy winner last night with Alabama over, and continued success in college basketball.
All right, good stuff, Brent. Best of luck on your 4% total tonight. Check that out at sportsmemo.com. And guys, remember, it's $2 Tuesday. You can get a play for just $2 at sportsmemo.com. We'll be right back with an NHL betting podcast with Andrew McGinnis.
Some brands offer you low finance, or cashback, or servicing.
Renault don't do ors. We do ands. The Renault Kadjar with 1.91% APR and €1,000 cashback and 3 years servicing, saving you thousands. Renault, the brand with the ands. Visit your local Renault dealer. Finance is made under a hire purchase agreement. Terms and conditions apply. Deposit required subject to lending criteria. See Renault.ie.